world's going to be true trouble if we kill every Jew in Israel, right? Got the world's sympathy for that. So then they're going to sit back and they're going to think, well, I've got the backing of all of Islam. That's a quarter of the world. Before he even comes into Israel, he's got 25% of the world behind him and the whole Middle East. I've also done this a few times in Georgia and in the Crimea and today Ukraine. And apparently they're going to make the fatal decision with this last one. My destiny is to secure Russia's financial future. That is precisely what the thinking is why they're in Crimea, because it's vital, and we'll lay this out here in just a little bit. Then he's going to say, who could stop me? Now I've got two questions for you folks. Number one, and you need to look at your neighbors and answer this question. Number one, why is Russia's overreach miscalculated so bad? And number two, where is this guy? How can Russia attack Israel? Those two questions you need to ask. Where or why? Why? I can see why they might want to try it in Crimea. Crimea is not even in NATO. Crimea is not an ally of ours, so to speak. And it's partially used to be Russian. But Israel? It's a pretty big gamble. But they're going to sit down on the pros and the cons and weigh it. How much gain if it works? And what's our losses if it doesn't work? Let's go. All right? How can they miscalculate? Anybody got an answer? Yes, ma'am?
God causes them to miscalculate.
She says, God causes them. Give her a round of applause. You know, I get nervous around smart women.
You should.
And let me add to that. Does anybody else have another one? I don't think you'll outdo that one. Let me add to that. What did Zechariah say the world would be? The world, behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of, and it's going to make all the nations intoxicated and stuff. What do you do when you're intoxicated and drunk? You make dumb decisions. And some of the decisions you make are like you're the biggest, baddest guy on the block and you're going to punch everybody's lights out, right? That's one of the reasons why Russia's miscalculated, because God's pulling them in and blinding them. But where's this guy? Well, anybody answer? You try that one.
We don't have the economics to support it.
He says it's an economic issue with us. We're just going to watch them go in.
I believe we're being led by a Muslim leader.
Now, a Muslim and white.
Or at least a Muslim friendly.
All right. We're getting off track. That course is next month. Could it be that this battle takes place after the rapture? And that the Spirit of God is going out of the world altogether? The restraining ministry is stopped. The deception is come flooding into the world. And that we, in essence, either have already flipped in that short of a period of time. Remember, when the rapture takes place, God says, I will bring a strong delusion. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, so that the world will believe a lie. The world's going to believe that this religious system of the Antichrist is the right one. And it makes sense to me if this happens after the rapture. America's going to be a different country 5 seconds While we're landing in heaven, America is not the same country. Okay?
Why is Russia's overreach calculated so badly by who? Miscalculated by who?
Then,
By Russia.
yes. Why does Russia miscalculate so bad? And the answer is because God's blinded them. And the answer is they're inebriated with Jerusalem and they don't think clearly. All right? In your notes, number 3, Israel. So we talked about Russia a little bit. Israel is pictured as wealthy and dwelling securely. Of the prophecy, it says it's in the latter years. It says Israel is going to be gathered from many nations. They're going to be brought back from the sword. It says they're going to dwell in the midst of the land, long desolate. They're going to be a peaceful people, dwelling securely. Sounds like them today. They're dwelling peacefully and securely today because of their military, because of the strength that they've got, having gold and silver and acquired livestock and goods. Ezekiel sees Israel somehow 2,500 years ahead as a wealthy nation ripe for plucking. That's the portrayal in this prophecy. And then God gets this thing out. I really do get a kick out of that verse. I will put a hook in that nation to the north and these Islamic nations, and I'm gonna pull them in. Number 4, God casts his lure and hooks a whopper. I, God, will turn you around and put hooks in your jaws and bring you out with your whole army. I put that big hook up there for the Lanford Baptist folks because they're great fishing partners. Number 5, the nations have provoked God to anger. This is what the sovereign Lord says: when God invades the land of Israel, my fury will boil over. In my jealousy and blazing anger, I promise a mighty shaking in the land of Israel on that day. So God lures them in for judgment. And you and I both know, folks, that God has been keeping records of the slander, the anti-Semitism, the hatred. That verse in your notes, I think it's in your notes, isn't it? Ezekiel 36:15. I will not let you hear those other nations insult you, and you will no longer be mocked by them. Every time there's a slur and an insult, God takes note of it. And when the nations are filled with what God says their cup is full, God's going to pull them in and slaughter them in the hills of Israel. Well, then let's talk about the rise of radical Islam. Who are these nations that are coming together? Let me talk to you just for a minute again about this remarkable coalition and what they're really about. I still don't think that we're prepared and the average Western mind understands what's going on. So let's check this out. These Islamic nations that are going to attack Israel are part of a religion that's the fastest growing religion in the world today. They're presently the second largest until the rapture. They have a momentum of growth right now that has never, ever been seen in the history of mankind. More than 65 nations in the world are Islamic. In the last 50 years, Europe's gone from 250K to 20 million. Mosques have grown 90% in the U.S. since 2000. There's over 100 million Muslims now in India. When our daughter went to India just 8 years ago, it was nowhere near like that. There's over 200 million Muslims living in Indonesia. Now, folks, listen to this. In the next 20 years, the Pew Research did a survey. One of the largest surveys ever done. You can look it up. There's the website. They say that the Muslim population is expected to increase by 35% in the next 20 years. They're going to grow from 1.6 billion to 2.2 billion. If you break that down, it's 30 million a year church members. 2.5 million a month joining. And every day that brings down over the next 20 years of 83,000 converts to Islam every day that you wake up, 83,000 more became a member. It's not going to be stopped. It's not going to go away. There's a lot of them that could be witness to. What kind of religion are these people joining? What's the big attraction? Well, honor killings are permissible. Sharia law is the codex of laws from the Quran that the state operates under. Iran doesn't have a separate set of laws. They are an Islamic state of Iran. And most of the Islamic countries are. In the Islamic state countries, you know what honor killings are. If your daughter marries a Christian, you can kill her. Lying is permitted to advance Islam. Taqiyya. Whenever you see an Islamic individual representing Islam on television, you probably don't necessarily need to believe what all they're saying. The Sharia law says you can have holy lying. How do you like that for a term? How many husbands and wives, you go home to your wife and you give her a holy lie? She'll give you a holy lie. It's called taqiyya. When Fox News and CNN brings this guy in and says, how come they blew that place up over there? Oh, we're peaceful. We don't do that stuff. Nobody in America has ever done that. We're the most peaceful people you've ever met. Taqiyya. Polygamy is acceptable. Stoning is adequate punishment for adultery. Beheading for those that talk against Islam. Islam alone will rule the world. Jihad's acceptable for spreading Islam. Suicide bombing is justified. And you get the death penalty if you leave Islam. 83,000 people a day are joining. That's not going to, it's not going to, that's not a problem, Tim. Well, it's getting to be a problem, right? Islam in America, the Muslim Brotherhood, I give you this. The Muslim Brotherhood have just announced that they're going to launch the United States political party for the 2016 election. Did you see the Muslim nation, Farrakhan? You know who Farrakhan is? How many of you know that Detroit's in a little bit of financial trouble? And how many of you know that Detroit has the largest Islamic population in America? And Arab money is purchasing huge amounts of it and creating a voting bloc. My son-in-law is a Detroit Lions guy, so I can tell him that all the time. With an eye towards the 2016 election, the Radical Muslim Brotherhood has built a framework for a political party in America which will turn Muslims into an Islamic voting bloc. The development bears careful monitoring in light of the U.S. Brotherhood's recently exposed goal to wage a civilization jihad against America that explicitly calls for infiltrating the U.S. political system and destroying it from within. This is a book I have up here called The Brotherhood by Eric Stakelbeck. If you can get anything by him, he's really good. CBN, you know who CBN is, Christian Broadcasting Network. He's a great journalist for them.